Hello, friends. I'm Rosie Acosta, your host and guide on this journey to self-discovery and radical love. I've walked a path filled with challenges. Growing up in East LA during the '92 LA riots, it left me searching for meaning, for mentors, for a way to truly understand the purpose of life. But you know what I found? The power of conversation. As a first-gen Mexican American, these conversations became my compass, offering insight, support, and an endless amount of inspiration. So I decided to create a space where we can share these conversations with you, our community. And that's how the Radically Loved podcast was born. Join me as we dive into topics like mindfulness, spirituality, self-love, and the keys to overall healthy living. I'm joined by my dear friend, fellow author, producer, and teacher, Tessa Tovar.
Hi, I'm Tessa, and I'm grateful to be part of this community because it teaches me so much about what it means to be human. Ever since I was a little one, I was always asking my dad the deeper questions in life. Why are we here? What happens when we are gone? What is the purpose of life? I love this show because I get to ask the questions that cut right to the meaning of life. I've learned that no matter how much we want the path to be clear or straightforward, it rarely is. And that is actually part of the beauty that creates a radically loved life.
Please do us a favor, share the episodes you love with your friends, and leave us a review. Together, we'll learn how to create a life that's truly, deeply, radically loved. Let's begin.
Here we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Radically Loved podcast. Hi, Rosie. How are you?
I am well. How are you? I'm trying to figure out where to put this.
What, is that your phone?
No, it's a light. It's like a cool little light.
Oh.
You know, on YouTube where it's like people have this really cool setup. They've got lights, and I'm little by little trying to figure out the background setup just for fun. It just makes it more fun. I don't know.
You look so profesh. I can't even imagine what else you would need to add to this.
I mean, it's only taken how many years? 10?
Yeah, about 2025 would be 10 years.
10 years
right?
next year, yes.
So we're creeping up on that.
We're creeping.
Creep, creep. Here we go. Wow, a decade.
Decade.
Wild.
That is, I mean, when I look at it from that perspective, it still is really hard to believe that it's like it's happened, that we're still here. And really, those of you that are listening that have been here from the beginning, thank you so much. Like, I cannot believe that you're still here.
We're still here.
I mean, it's truly, I mean, and we've been through the gamut. We've gone up, we've gone down, we've done so many iterations. There's been so many iterations of this show, and we've taken breaks and hiatuses and restructurings, and people have come and they've gone. And I think that's just the nature of
any business.
Any business, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Any product, everything goes through multiple iterations. And that's, I think, important for growth. And, we do as humans every 7 years, we were created anew.
Yeah. And this is so true. And it allows us to cultivate resilience and to learn from mistakes, which we have made many.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And we've talked about them here on this very podcast.
Ad nauseam.
Go back to the beginning if you want to hear that story.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited for our guest today.
Yeah, me too. She has been, I've known this particular gal for a handful of years now, and I think she's just like so sweet, so genuine, and I'm really excited to have her on the show and for you to get to chat with her as well.
I'm so excited for, can I start? Christine Hernandez.
Yes, let's introduce her.
Christine Hernandez is joining us today. She is an acclaimed author known for her evocative storytelling and vibrant depictions of cultural heritage. And we're going to talk some about her latest book, which is called Remember Your Roots: How to Awaken Your Ancestral Power and Live with Gratitude. which Rosie and I were just discussing how much we love that title before we hit record.
Yeah, this is true. And here, I'm like, it's giving Leopoldo, right?
Oh, yes.
It's like feeling like that kind of energy.
Yeah.
So,
Which I
yeah,
love.
same. So, without further ado, here's our conversation with Christine.
Enjoy.
Today, everyone.
You've got Rosie in the background, right, Rosie?
I do. Well, she's on the floor right now. My white pit bull. She's sunbathing in that little spot of light that's coming in.
Animals just
Hopefully she
crack me
doesn't
up.
make sound.
I
I know.
love them. Do you have animals, Christine?
I don't, but
She's
I
an
am
aunt.
the auntie to all of the friends' puppies, especially Chai.
So Chai is Sahara Rose's puppy, and this is like her main Thea. She takes care of her. I'm sorry, let's get the gender right. Christine takes care of Chai. And yeah, this is his main squeeze right here. Christine is.
Yeah,
I love that.
him.
Isn't it the best to be the auntie because you can have all the fun and then give them back? You're like, okay.
I feel so blessed. I'm like, yay. But I miss him though so much.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. So yeah, I get a little attached sometimes.
Oh my gosh,
So, yeah.
I hear ya. Well, Christine, I want to hear all about your new book, Remember Your Roots, How to Awaken Your Ancestral Power and Live with Gratitude. I'm sure I speak for both of us when I say we have so many questions about this book, your work,
Good.
the theme of cultural heritage in general. But I guess where I'd love to start, Rosie, if it's okay with you, is what inspired you to write this book?
My life, and the fact that I grew up so disconnected from knowing who I was and knowing the parts of myself, the parts that would, if I had known sooner, would have been really beautiful, I think, and really supportive. It would have been really beautiful to know these parts. And I think many of us grow up not knowing ancient history, like the ancient histories of the Americas and of our ancestors. So for me, that's what inspired me is knowing that I was really disconnected, and coming back into connection has been an incredibly empowering and like essential part of my healing. Yeah.
Can you, just for the people that are listening that aren't familiar with your story, can you just give us a brief background of like how you got to this place? Because I love what you're saying about, for many of us, knowing our roots or understanding where we came from is so important. Especially as you get older, you gain more wisdom, you have a deeper desire to know where you come from. So just to give the audience a little bit more of your background and how you came to this place of discovering this path.
Yeah. So I'm Mexican, American, and Guatemalan, and deeply connected to my indigenous Mayan roots and Mexica roots. But growing up, I was raised by a single parent, by my mother. My father had left when I was 3. He came back around 13 and was in and out of my life from 13 to 18. He had been, after he conceived me with my mother, he had gotten into drugs and he had gotten into gangs and he had been in prison. So he wasn't there for my birth either. And then he was really deeply depressed because he had come from Guatemala when he was about 5 years old and was molested during that time of coming over to the States. And that was during the Civil War. He had just gone through quite a lot and was really depressed. And then took his life when he was 22. And I'd always felt like when I was 22, when I was 22, the same month that I turned 22, he had taken his life. And I had always felt this feeling like he would get me and he would understand me and that we were going to have this really deep connection because being raised by my mother, we were just so incredibly different. And I always felt like, I call it the rainbow sheep because I wasn't like the black sheep. It wasn't that way. It doesn't resonate with me to say the black, but I was like this just very different child, very into my imagination, into wanting to learn more, discover more. I knew that there was more for me. And I had just seen a lot of toxicity because she, as a single parent, loved to date cholos. And that was her type, were the gangsters and the bad boys. And I just had seen a lot of things growing up that weren't healthy. So in my 20s, I numbed a lot. I went into coping mechanisms that were like really unhealthy. And it wasn't until I got into a toxic relationship where I was like on my knees, realizing like it was time to change my life. I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I needed to do something differently. And then I wanted something more for myself. And then I got into yoga, which is so fascinating, right? Like, I feel like it's so beautiful that yoga is a beautiful way for us to go into spirituality, and there's no trauma around it, right? If I had found cacao before the yoga, I probably would have been skeptical, and that program, that story of like that kind of stuff and those teachings are evil or bad or dark or whatever it is. But there's no trauma. There's no generational trauma with yoga. It's a totally different culture, totally different tradition. It just looked fun. It looked sweet, and it felt so good. So that
Did
opened
it
me
to
up.
you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I guess I did because I just love
Yeah.
I want to see if for you there was a familiarity because it was so different and it was so different from like the Hispanic cultures, but very similar, right? So there's a lot of similarities in, Hindu traditions and the
Mm-hmm.
colors and the
Mm-hmm.
practices. So I'm curious if
Right.
that
Right.
sort of
Right.
created that draw for you. I'm just curious.
Not consciously, of course, but I'm sure in some ways I'm like, it just felt safe. It felt really good. Consciously it wasn't there. But I think it was just a beautiful way, yes, to go into spirituality. And then that led me to yoga teacher training in Bali. So I'm in Bali, and they introduced me to Mayan Cacao from Guatemala. It wasn't just any yoga teacher training. It was mystical yoga that they had come from Guatemala. And I didn't put that together at all and didn't realize. And so I'm sitting in that ceremony like, wait, what? My father's from Guatemala. Wait, what is this? And instantly I'm reconnected to my heart in that space because, already in the yoga teacher training, you're already being prepared and you're more open. And so being open, I was really able to receive the medicine, and it instantly connected me to my heart and to the ancestors. And I knew it was like the first or second where I knew like this is for me, it's meant for me, and I'm meant to heal with this medicine, and I'm also meant to share it with the world. Like I went out of there and I could not stop talking about cacao, and I knew that was an ancestral plant that I needed to work with and share with everyone. I would just talk to anyone about it. I'm like, do you know about ceremonial cacao? And they're like, what are you talking about? No idea. But yeah, that led me on the path of reconnection, realizing how much beauty is within my lineage, of going back to the lands. So, and connecting with the ancestral lands and the cacao and the trees there and the wisdom keepers. So, yeah, that was how it began.
Christine, could you tell us more about? I'm a newborn when it comes to understanding ceremonial cacao. I've heard Rosie talk about it a little bit, but I'd love to hear,
I'm so
what does
happy
it
that you're asking
mean?
about this because I
Yeah.
was like, okay, just for people that don't know, and yes, I have
Yeah.
talked about it, but I've been to Christine's cacao ceremonies, so I would love Christine for you to just give us the rundown.
Yeah, so ceremonial cacao is made intentionally by the Mayan peoples in Guatemala, and they make them in different parts, also in Mexico and Ecuador and other parts. It's made with intention, like from the tree, and the way that it's harvested, it's like made traditionally. They gather the beans from the pod, which I literally have a pod here. Just interesting, not everyone can see this, but this is like the pod, and inside this is where your chocolate comes from. But when you have ceremonial cacao in its purity, it retains all of the healing benefits, all the health benefits, all the nutrients and the vitamins and the antioxidants. It's a powerhouse in antioxidants, even more than blueberries. So it's this superfood that has anandamide, which is the bliss molecule, theobromine that gently energizes, magnesium, which the Western world is incredibly deficient in. And this helps to feed your brain, and it helps to relax your muscles. There's PEAs and MAOs that helps with your serotonin and your dopamine level. But when you have it in its purest form, it supports you in feeling more deeply. So it's like the superfood as well as a spiritual aid. And people call it heart medicine because you can if you sit with it and allow yourself, if you're open enough, you can feel yourself opening up more. You can feel your heart blossoming open. You can feel embodied. You can feel in your body. And it really supports you in feeling deeply, feeling your feelings, and allowing you to release as well. So sometimes people will sit in ceremony and maybe they might not feel anything if they're not open to it, but they're there, or they may be open to it, but they're not really energetically in their body. And maybe they drink a lot of coffee, or they drink alcohol, or they're eating a lot of meat, or they're eating just a lot of food and doing all these things. And your body's not going to be able to take in the medicine and really feel the medicine, right? Because you have all these other things going on. But if you open up to it, you can sometimes have giggles or sweat, or tears may come, and that's also supporting in the release. But it's super euphoric, so you feel really good as well. So there's all these things happening on a physical level, and it's a medicine that's been used for thousands of years by the Mayans, by the Azteca Mexica, and before them the Toltecas, and before them the Olmecas. So it goes back from that mother culture, mother ancient civilization. They have been using this for that long.
Is there and just, you know, so that people can really understand, like, is there a specific, I mean, I know that different traditions prepare it a different way. Like, I know that when I was little, my abuelita used to make it with my aunt. Like, it was with they would use the molcajete. Like, they would really like, you make it sort of like this yeah, like ceremonial thing. But I just thought it was like hot chocolate, you know, because I'm like, put it like 5 tablespoons of sugar in it, because
Totally.
when I would try it, it's very bitter, right, to the taste. And
Yeah.
I didn't really understand, right, until I got a lot older. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, this is so special, like, for people to be able to have this experience. And I love what you're saying about the intentionality behind it, how important it is. And I think that this really goes back to connecting to your roots and what you're writing about and what you talk about, right? Because this is something it's such a special type of ceremony that everybody can, you know, get into. And I think now, with people going into all of these plant medicines, and, you know, you're hearing of all this like microdosing, and people going into, I mean, to me, cacao is one of the most powerful types of ceremonies that you can do, and that you can experience. And is there a specific way that, you know, people that are listening to this, you know, I see it packaged a lot, which kind of irks me a little bit when I see it like packaged, and I'm like, they're like, oh, here's this cacao, whatever. I'm not going to say the name of the brand because I know the person that created it, but I'm just like, it just irks me a little bit, because I'm like, oh, this isn't the way that it's supposed to be consumed. But at the same time, I'm happy that people are consuming it, right? Because it's like, okay, I'd rather people experience it than not. So I guess, can you, I'm like, give us permission to have this experience? How can people listening to even just this conversation that have never heard about cacao ceremony, like, what's a great intro for them to even just have this experience?
So I have a free guide that we can put it in the notes or something that people can do and make it with themselves. But it's really about intention, right? It's about appreciating, not appropriating, honoring, going to the medicine in reverence, really, and not just taking and using it in that way. But finding the right cacao. I also source my own cacao for that very reason, because at first I was getting cacao from, I won't even say the name but it just felt like a middleman, this white man. And I'm grateful that he had shared the medicine far and wide, because people in all over the States and in Europe know his cacao. But it's like, okay, it's time for us, the people, you know, from the lands, and people who are indigenous and connected to these plants, to share them in a bigger way. But it's medicine for everyone. That's why it's all over the world. We all need the gentle plants, the gentle herbs to support us. And we hear of these really extreme plants that are really just too much for our nervous system. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of this medicine, and also all plant medicines that are gentle and nourishing herbs, right? So you can Google that and look up, like, what are ancestral plants that are mine, that are from my lands, that are from my ancestors' lands, right? And there's so many beautiful, gentle ones like lavender and chamomile that are super supportive, blue lotus. So many different herbs that are super gentle and beautiful. But it's all about your intention and going to the plant with reverence. And you would get a beautiful ceremonial block if you want to make ceremonial cacao, or say you already have the nibs, then try it yourself with your cacao nibs that you have that are organic in your fridge. And make it ceremonially. So set the space, right? Cleanse the space, put beautiful healing music, make the intention of like, okay, I'm making this ceremonial because I've just learned about it perhaps, and I really want to experience this, but this is what I have right now. And you can heat the cacao. You never want to boil it because it will kill those beautiful living enzymes that we spoke of. And you can add beautiful, like natural sweetener to it and a little cinnamon or spice or cayenne. It's a synergist that helps it even flow through your blood even more efficiently. And create the space for it, sit with it, and just come to it with intention and reverence.
Tell me why you're not supposed to, I didn't know you're not supposed to boil it. I've never boiled it, but I do add like hot water to it.
Yeah, definitely want hot water. I like it warm too. The thing is, the more you boil it, the more it kills it. So then you're left with the flavor, but not the butter. The butter's like living, it's alive, it has the living enzymes, and that's where it has all the good stuff in it. So the more you boil it, the more it's processed, the less health benefits you have. And that's the problem with chocolate. So chocolate is super highly processed. And they strip the fat of it. They actually take the fat out. All the good stuff is taken out of it so that they can use that for skin products, actually, because it's great for your skin. And then they put in oils, bad oils, and then they put in tons of sugar. So you're just left with this flavor of cacao, but none of the good stuff. So if you were to buy ceremonial cacao, you can make chocolates. You can have the yummy flavor of the chocolate, but still retain the health benefits of the chocolate. So, there's recipes and things like that on my website as well. And with the guide, I actually give you like 5 recipes so you can it's all about intention. Make those chocolates delicious and enjoy that with your family and your friends, and just set the space. Like even with cacao ceremonies, they're so beautiful and so simple. And for me, I call it the Matiosh method because I don't know the exact ancient way that my ancestors used to do it, right? So I'm like, I know it's within me. I know we definitely worked with this 100%, even within my exact lineage. And I wanted to create a way for people to feel gratitude. So Matiosh means thank you in Mayan. So it's the gratitude method, and we drink Mayan cacao, we meditate, and we get movement in so we can come into the embodiment of gratitude. And yeah, that's a beautiful way to play with the medicine or work with that medicine.
I have a follow-up question about something you said earlier about, well, I just really appreciate that you called out, first of all, that it's a gentle medicine, and to be cognizant of what you're already doing to your body. If you're highly caffeinated, if you're drinking alcohol, if you're overeating processed food, that this may or may not have the effect that, I think about this from the lens of our Western culture and our Western medicine in particular, how we expect to be cured by something quick and with a pill. And we don't often take the time to slow down and cleanse and think about, how am I treating my body on a daily basis that's creating this downward effect? So I'm curious if you recommend that if someone wants to try cacao ceremony with you in this way, maybe there's a way to prepare the body, the mind, the physical body, the emotional body to receive in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So not having coffee, right? If you could lead up to, like, let's say we have a cacao ceremony coming up and it's a week from now, I would say have no coffee between those dates, right?
What?
And I know,
literally
crazy.
Everybody's like, what?
Yep. So have no coffee. Maybe have a little maca or something, go gentle.
Why not have, and look, I'm not a coffee person, but I know, look at Tessa. I know she is. I know a lot of people that are, but what is the purpose behind not having the coffee?
To open you up to sensitivity so that you're open to the plant when you get there. And also so you're not highly caffeinated and then feel like zing when you have anything else on top of that, because of the theobromine, which is similar to the effects of, green tea, right? So you have a little bit of energizing effects on there. But yeah, I just feel like you're not as sensitive when you have coffee. And then also the same thing with meat. If you have like a really heavy belly, and you're eating really heavily like the night before, then you may not be able to feel the medicine as much. It's just like a dieta. If you're going into ayahuasca ceremony, they give you a much longer one, right? And it's not as intense. We don't talk about doing a week long thing, but I usually just let people know, like, eat less the day of, and don't have as much, or don't have caffeine.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And obviously, we can spend this entire time talking about just cacao
I know.
ceremonies because
I
obviously
know.
this is what you do, and we love it so much, and I love it, and I think it's just something really beautiful that I would love more people to experience. But I do
Yeah.
want to get back to remember your roots because I
Yay.
feel like it's such a beautiful journey, and I know that your writing process, like, I know you love
Mm,
writing and storytelling. You're such a storyteller, and this
mm,
isn't your first book, obviously, but I would really love for you to share with us, like, what your writing process was like. We talk about writing on this podcast all the
mm.
time. Both Tessa and I are authors, and so it's always interesting whenever we have authors on the show for them to talk about their writing experience.
So I'm co-authored on the book because thank God for support and helping with structure. So my beautiful beloved Cyrus helped me to write the book. See, he's right here. Yeah. So the process for me was like writing everything I felt. And actually the first book that had come through, and the first story that was coming through, was a book on gratitude. And it was more of like a handbook, and yeah, speaking to the importance of gratitude, and how, gratitude is a indigenous practice, and it defines indigenous people's lives, right? To live in gratitude, to live in reciprocity. It keeps them happy, healthy, and harmony, and kept our ancient ancestors living in that beautiful way. And so it started with that, and then it started to move. And as it can happen with the process, like, it turned into a totally different book. And I needed to tell more of my story. And yeah, and infuse the 13 chapters to really, and uh, what is that word? Um, be,
Encompass.
thank you. Yes, you read my mind. I love it.
I was like, we're
Encompass.
playing charades.
I'm going like
Yeah, like
this. Wholeness and completion, right? 13 in the Mayan calendar, the number 13 means wholeness and completion. And so I wanted to go over like all aspects, starting with the body. So we begin with the body. We go into the mind, from the mind into the soul, and then into relationships and ancestors and plants, and to the elementals, and then the importance of ceremony and connection with the divine. And so Cyrus would see all these things that I'm writing about, and then he would kind of come in and, like, yeah, do work his magic and help with structure. Because as the feminine, I'm quite chaotic, and even just how I speak is very different. I would even say that I'm neurospicy. Like, I'm all over the place, and that's okay. I'm like, I know I'm different, and it's also beautiful. Like, we're not all meant to be the same and think the same, and yeah, speak the same. So yeah, I'm super super grateful for his support on the structure.
I think it's so important to have support and help as a writer. And I know Rosie agrees. It can be such a lonely journey, and to get
Mm,
stuck in your head in that way.
hmm
I think there are those of us that feel like, oh, I just have to get this story out of me. And it's like
mm,
more painful to keep the story inside than it would be to just get it out
mm.
on the page. But then, and I don't know if you experienced this, Christine, I will feel like that, and then I'll get to my writing, and you too, Rosie. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And all of a sudden I'll feel like, oh, this is so hard to write. This is such a slog. And so I'm wondering, for both of you, how do you stay inspired and motivated in your writing journey? Because you have a story
Hmm.
you obviously want to tell.
Um, I didn't feel like I was so motivated to just continue to write. And sometimes it would just be too much. If anything, I was a little much and have a lot to say, and it would go over here and over there. And then I'm like, the whole ancestors chapter could be a whole book. I have so much more to say on it. Like, it's such an important aspect of this, of the book. But Cyrus to kind of reel me back and support me to come back. I don't know. I guess yeah, everyone's so different, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
No, and I
Appreciate
love
that.
I love to hear the chaos, because I think it's so important to acknowledge that. And even as you're both speaking, and the three of us, like, we have three different writing processes, but I'm the same. I like to look at it as like a blob. Like, I'm just gonna write. I don't care about the
Yep.
structure, right? I just want
Yeah.
the blob to come out, and then I can reshape her however I see fit. But also, I'm a big fan of asking for help as well, because many people here
Yeah.
know that Jeannie Faulkner was my writing coach, and she was my like writing godmother throughout this entire process. And I think that's really important. And I think that a lot of the times, especially as women, we feel like we have to just do everything ourselves. We have to
Mm-hmm.
write the book, we have to do the marketing, we have to do the reach, we have to do the interview. I'm not trying to make this a gender thing at all, but I'm just saying, like, for a lot of creative people, I think that, you know, we feel the need to just do everything ourselves, where
Yeah.
if there is a
It's not the
message, and
way.
yeah, and Christine, what it sounds like is that you got the call to create this experience, and you had somebody that was there to help sort of reel it back in, to keep it, because look, truth be told, if you don't
Right.
have a good story structure, people aren't going to read the book, because it's too all over the place, right? It's just perpetuating more of the chaos that it exists in our minds for all of us.
Yeah.
So I really think that that's a good sort of way to, you know, have a co-author, have somebody that is coaching you, or have the you know, the support that you need in order to get the story out. So I really
And
love that.
and I think that there's real beauty, and it's even more potent, to be honest, is like collaboration, of coming together, of him supporting and uplifting my story is really what happened. And that's what I do with everything. It's like, okay, you see it in the book, but also with the revival, which is like an event that I do, and a summit that I put on. It's like, I want us all coming together. And then I speak about that in the book, is like the importance of us coming together, of healing together, of grieving together, of celebrating together. It's this togetherness. We're not meant to do things on our own, really.
Okay, so on that note, Christine, I want to ask you a final question, and then a final kind of technical question. But the final question I want to ask you is, what advice would you have for anyone who's listening to this who feels that they have a story in them, aspiring writers or aspiring creators?
I would suggest to just write, just for the sake of writing, and just let it out, and start somewhere. And maybe that's just in your journal, but then seek support. And my partner Cyrus actually has a course that just came out that can support. So if you resonate with me, and you feel like, oh, I have that similar vibe, then, you know, find him and write with him. Like, I highly suggest him, because of what he does with other authors, and what he did with me is he's the up leveler. He uplifts and he up levels people's stories. So I send people to him. Again, I'm not meant to do it. Like, don't come to me asking me for the advice and helping you through it. So yeah, go there.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you. Okay, and then final question, the technical one, is where can people go to connect with you on the socials? Where do you like to most connect?
Oh, you can go to my website or Instagram. My IG is Christine Olivia _, and Christine is ChristineOlivia, and my website is iamchristineolivia.com. And I'd love to close with an excerpt from the book, if I can.
Oh, please, yes.
Okay, amazing. So all of us descend from both victim and perpetrator. Through this process of remembering my roots, I've gathered information, skills, and techniques, coming to fully understand how I am made of both the light and the dark. I am made of dirt and stars. I am part human, part wild woman. I have fire in my heart, water in my blood, earth as my body, and the wind as my breath. And you, my kin, do too. Every human holds an ancient history within our blood. Since I am a descendant of mixed race and ancestry, I have much to learn from the past. I can do better than my ancestors that caused harm, and I can restore the beauty of those who were wise in their ways. What resonates with me can stay, and what does not can end with me. If I can become the change maker, the cycle breaker, and the liberator of my bloodline by owning my life story, then so can you. You.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that, Christine. Thank you so much for joining us.
By the way,
today.
both of us
Thank
were
you.
like, at the same time, except I was muted, but that was so lovely.
Just
Thank you. And the Audible will be out soon. I know people like to listen to my voice, so
They
yay!
do. They do.
You have such a lovely voice, so I cannot wait for
Thank
that.
you.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Yay. Thank you, beauties, for having me so much.
Thanks for
Matiyosh.
coming on.
Thank you. So we'll make sure that all of those amazing links get into our show notes. You can just click the info button and look below for all of that amazing content. Please remember to subscribe, rate, review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with anyone that you think would be uplifted and in need of this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. We love you all, and come back again next Friday.
Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to the Radically Love podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps. Also, don't forget to check out the Mindful Love Hub on Substack. This episode was produced by Tessa, Tovar, music by DJ Taz Rashid.